Hello and welcome to the GOAT. This is following on from the away game at Forest in the Europa League. What can we say about this that's not already been said in the last day or so? I'm going to try and be really brutally honest here without being or sounding defeatist, because I'm definitely not wishing to do that. But what I would say first of all is I think everyone was pretty gutted it wasn't Porto, because people just wanted to go to Portugal, and Nottingham had the sunshine. We'll give it that much. Cracking day. I don't know. It was a weird. It only seemed to sort of kick in a sort of 20-minute spell before the game started. Up till that point, it just seemed almost like with the weather being so nice, it was like a pre-season friendly. It was a bit weird. I thought the PA guy for Forest was the guy doing the music was pretty good. He put some quite good stuff on in the sort of 40 odd minutes leading up to kick off. The PA woman sounded like she'd won a competition, I think, to shout stuff out and what have you. But I thought the build-up was pretty good. Obviously, they make a lot of noise pre-game with that Mulligan Tyre song that they do. And generally, I thought the atmosphere was all right. I thought ours was, we had 1,700 fans, just shy of that there. I don't know how many were involved who hadn't got the required amount of European aways to get a ticket. Who knows? Maybe they'll give us that information one day. But I thought the atmosphere was pretty decent. I thought we gave quite a good account of ourselves. Forest obviously made a lot of noise after the goal. Up until that point, nothing particularly special. And onto the game itself. In fact, just before I do get onto that, one thing I would say is, like, everyone has a few drinks for the game, me included. Absolutely no doubt about it. But I've noticed over the last 2 or 3 years with the European aways, some just get absolutely fucking paralytic. I've seen someone actually I know criticising our support on Thursday night. I don't know where he was sat, but he certainly wasn't sat by us. One thing I would say is if you turn up paralytic, then you're not really much use support-wise then, are you? People literally falling over the seats. Even just one game back in Bologna, people falling down steps, absolutely smashing into the floor, not even aware of what they've done or how much they've hurt themselves, because they are absolutely out of it. They've just gone so far, they're out of it. And again, there were people like falling over seats. One guy was holding on, trying not to just continually topple over the people in front of him. But there you go. You pays your money, it takes your choice, I suppose. But I mean, I was okay with the first half, and I actually said at half time that I said I fancy us now. I think we'll get a goal in the second half, because I thought we'd done okay. I didn't think we'd done as well in the positions that we got into as we could have done. Probably the shot that Rodgers had that the keeper saved was sort of as good as that got, but we were getting into some really decent positions and not really just making the most of them. But by half time, I was sort of more than encouraged. Obviously, Martinez had made a great save too. Really, really excellent save. Worth saying that for all the people who are already selling him in the summer, good luck getting an elite goalkeeper who's going to be anywhere near as good as Emi Martinez. Before I even carry on with this, I would let him run his contract down with us, quite frankly, because all the people going on about this James Trafford, who's the backup goalie in Man City. Good luck with that, because he won't be cheap either. But I'll tell you what, he won't be as good as Emi Martinez is right now. I wouldn't be selling him, and he showed that again on Thursday night. Second game at Forest as well, where he's made an absolutely elite save and we've lost. But half time, I was pretty encouraged. It was a tight game. It's what we expected. And I really fancied the second half. And then second half was, whether this comes across watching it on the TV, I don't know. But to me, it was really deflating the way we played. And yeah, it was only a penalty that separated the sides. Yeah, Luca Dean's stupid having his hands in the air like that. And if it was the other way around, yeah, we'd be, shouting for a penalty as well, obviously. But it's just one penalty that's separated the sides. I think 0-0 probably would have been a fair result otherwise. But in that second half, we just never ever got going. And I know he said afterwards, Unai said afterwards that clearly at 1-0, you don't want it getting any worse. But it was obvious we weren't going to try and get back into the game and get ourselves level. We were just going to almost protect the goal, lose 1-0, and then we've got the second leg. Forester, again, like the league game, they're more than beatable. They're a decent side. They're better than they were, no doubt about it. But why we just sit back? And I don't know. I don't get it. But the second half was really deflating, and I felt afterwards like we were walking back to the car, and a lot's been made of their celebrations. And I have to say, fireworks were going off, and they've said it's something to do with the local business that does it all the time. Might have been worth telling that local business not to do it after this game. And yeah, of course you can fucking celebrate. I don't think anyone's saying that, but the level of celebrations was like they'd won the tie and not the first leg. We walked past a couple of pubs and one bar. The music was blaring. They were jumping up and down, banging on the windows, and it was literally like they'd won the tie. So that's fair enough. It's all bookmarked. But yeah, going back to the game, I mean, I think this season alone, considering how bad our business has been in recent transfer windows, with players we bought, we just don't play. A player like Marlon who's gone, and I'll still say that we could have kept Marlon for the rest of the season. He knew he was going to play. He knew he was going to get in the Dutch World Cup squad. There wasn't going to be any issue with that. But that little merry-go-round of players involving Bailey and Tammy Abraham has basically seen us lose Marlon scoring goals and him scoring goals for fun in Serie A with Roma. Bringing in Bailey, who barely plays and has offered absolutely fuck all, and bringing in Tammy Abraham, who's barely played. And again, the other night doesn't warrant 1 minute of action. So that little scenario is just basically left us short of pace and short of goals. You got Buendia's name. I actually wanted to talk about Buendia a little bit because he gets he gets a lot of shit. He was really poor the other night. Absolutely no doubt about it. Really rank ordinary. There was a moment in the second half when Yuri Tielemans played a ball to him and he just didn't react, and Yuri was having a right go at him. Again, I don't know if that came across at all on the TV, but he wasn't happy with him. But the one thing I would say was there was no alternative. There was no alternative. We cannot trust Bailey or Sancho to play in an advanced role. They've both shown that. They're both shit scared. They're terrified of being touched, especially Sancho. Absolutely terrified of being touched by defenders. So they just give the ball up. Time and time again, they will give the ball up. So they're of no use at all. And that's why Buendia is playing. There's no way in the world that he should be starting a European semi-final. He's a good squad player. He could be on the bench and that's fine. But the reason he is because we just don't trust the options we've got sat on the bench. And again, Marlon would have been absolutely fucking ideal. Now we've got players who we just do not trust. So that whole little merry-go-round of three players just weakened us completely. And it was no surprise that for so long in 2026 that our form has been so poor and has only recently in the last few weeks got better. So yeah, Buendia was poor, no doubt about it. But I don't know what the options are. For people slagging off the manager for picking him, there really were no other options because he won't play Lindelof in midfield, let's say, so you can then rearrange and put Tielemans further forward or whatever. And the same with Bogard coming on. I'm not a Nana's biggest fan. I have to say, I think when he's in the team and he's on form, he's a massive, massive asset to us. But when you're now out for the 9th time with injury in a slightly less than 2-season career with us. The 9th time he's been out for a game or games with an injury. That's 9. You're of no use to us. No use at all. You know, to see him start was a boost. As soon as the team news came through, and then he goes off, and then apparently he's got a different injury to the one he was sort of nursing and starting with. And by all accounts now he's out for Spurs, and it's going to be pretty doubtful as to whether he's back for the second leg. He's just of no use to us. He isn't, of all the players we probably look to move on in the summer to try and get stronger, he really shouldn't be one of them. He's at a good age, and physically he should be absolutely in his prime. But he's just constantly injured. Everton fans did say that he's one of those players that unless he's 100%, he won't play. And yeah, we're seeing this all the time. You don't know the level of these injuries, but he just keeps picking them up. So yeah, for that second leg, I mean, it becomes difficult. Do you drop McGinn in there to have some sort of physical presence to win that battle in midfield? Can you put Lindelof in there? I don't think he will. If we start with Bogard, no offense to the lad, and he's not a kid. I've seen people say, "Oh, he's just a kid." Well, he's not a kid. He's 22. He was desperately poor, and we couldn't afford, a passenger to come on and start giving the ball away on a regular basis. We just cannot afford that at all. Douglas Luiz over quite a lot of Villa channels and 2 podcasts that I like in particular, really getting some severe shit. Now, I would say with Douglas Luiz, again, we signed him at a time when we were desperate, and he then came into the side when Onana was in one of his missing spells and just really holding himself back. So we were looking for Luiz to come straight in and actually almost solely contribute in that midfield. He had no one around him doing anything. There was no McGinn, no Tielemans, and Onana, who was just hiding. So I think the criticism of Douglas Luiz is pretty unwarranted, to be honest. Of course, he's not hit the heights. I don't think anybody thought he would, much like Bailey. We'd let him go with a view to selling him, not buying him back. So I would certainly put him in next Thursday against Forest. Now, how you rejig that, whether you put John McGinn with him and you put Tielemans further forward, or you put Lindelof in there, which I don't think Unai is going to do. Lindelof and Luiz, is that going to be all right on the night if you have Tielemans further forward and McGinn as well? I don't know. But you've got a lot of players who seem to be deemed untrustworthy, and some rightly so, on the bench. It's very, very difficult. And again, we look back and we say that, the tune that Unai's got from this team as a whole, with so many players who haven't contributed, is pretty staggering. To be in a position where we could be, getting in the Champions League in the next sort of week or so. It really, really is staggering. But we do seem to keep buying players who we end up not playing. I mean, for me, Harvey Elliott would be absolutely worth a try. But Unai's really reluctant to give him any minutes at all, even now when he could play, and it's not going to affect this fucking deal that we did and signed off. Absolute waste of his career. I think Villa have treated him absolutely fucking terribly. Why they keep making him go through the motions of being on the bench, I don't know. If you're not going to play him, I don't get it. Absolutely waste. And yeah, I would have played him. I don't know what we'd expect from someone who, has got so little match time anyway, but could he be worse than Emi Buendia the other night? I don't think he would. But yeah, we need that second leg. We need an atmosphere like we've had many times before for night European games. I've seen a lot of, entitled fucking social media accounts saying, if you think we're going to lose, then don't turn up at Villa Park, give a ticket to someone else. Well, yeah, absolute fucking idiots, people like that. People can have an opinion, still be there and cheer the team on and fucking shout to their horse and everything else. But I mean, if they'd have been there for that second half, it was really deflating, and it looked like Forest were getting the better of us. and that they might have had the measure of us. And certainly for the second leg, when they've got a couple more players back that they didn't have available, you know, at some point we have to come out. I'm hoping we're not going to leave it too late to do that. I know it could be 0-0 with 20 minutes to go and we've still got time, but that window of time shrinks in terms of, at that point Forest are going to be going down and feigning injuries and doing all the stuff that teams do all the time in these sort of situations. We need to be at them early. We need to get an early goal. We need to get the crowd on side, because if we don't, and especially if Forest score first, it's going to turn pretty toxic, I would imagine. We are at a point, I think, here where it's now or never for some of these players. I think there's going to be quite a reasonable size overhaul in the middle in the summer after the World Cup. I'm not saying a massive overhaul, but I think there's going to be some changes, and there's going to be some players leave that have been here for some time. And I feel like it's now or never, because I hope one of those changes obviously won't be the manager. But if that were to happen and players were to change in the summer, I think we go back to being in the mid-table of the Premier League. Unai Emery is like a cheat code for us. And that's why I feel like this is now or never to win a trophy. And if we don't, then they will rightly, if we don't do this in the second leg, they will rightly earn the tag of not having the mentality or the bottle when the going gets tough and they really need to just become winners. Look at some of the teams over the last 3 years who've won trophies, and some of them, Newcastle's, West Ham, Palace's as well. But teams like Man U, who've been an absolute basket case of a club for the last few years, but they still win trophies. Same for Chelsea. Absolute disaster of a club. Can win the FA Cup this year. Still in the finals. Still know how to win and get through to finals. The 3 semi-finals we've had, Olympiacos, Palace, and now Forest. And there's no disrespect to those clubs at all. But we've been put into a position where, we've got a really good chance of doing this. And like Freiburg or Braga in the final, it isn't Roma or Lyon or whatever else. We're like, oh, this is going to be really, really tough. It's going to be tough, but we've got a chance to do it if we play to our potential. Now, we didn't play anywhere near to our potential on Thursday night, and that may ultimately cost us in the second leg, because it's all in the balance. The first goal, obviously, ridiculous to say it, but it's crucial. And yeah, of course, they could score first and we could still come back and get in the tie, but we need to score first to get the crowd on side and lifted. Because if we don't, and it's slow and turgid or whatever else, they're going to lose the crowd pretty quickly. So there's a lot riding on it. Now, obviously, we've got Spurs tomorrow. I must admit, my eyes are sort of firmly on next Thursday. I think we're good enough to make changes and beat Spurs. Spurs are a fucking pitiful side. They're bottom 4 material, 2 seasons running. You don't do that unless you're crap. But, we have to be at it. And if we're not at it, then yeah, Spurs might have a chance. It really depends how we approach this game too. But we should be more than good enough to beat Spurs. And I'd like to think that if we did it in a positive way and got a sort of 2 or 3-0 or something like that, it would then lead on into that Forest second leg. But for me, that second leg is the season. It will be a total failure if we don't get to that final. Complete failure. And it really is our season in a nutshell. And like I say, these chances won't keep coming along. And I feel like now for this group of players, it literally is now or never. And there's a whole generation of fans who've never seen us win anything. There's a generation like myself who did, but it was a long time ago. And we've got to win a trophy. For me, it's the most important thing of the season. We have to try and win this trophy. And we can't afford first legs like that at Forest where we're just timid and we don't go on to teams and we're just not taking the few chances we actually create. We don't take them. And it's not going to be enough. So, that first goal and then fucking get after him. Let's get after him in that second leg. And the crowd will be up for it. And only good things will happen if we do it. And that's what I feel like we've got to do. It's I thought about a week ago, it's a really exciting time to be a Villa fan. There's no doubt about it. But this next week now defines everything. And I think because of that first leg and because we've lost it, it just puts the pressure on. So tomorrow against Spurs is massive, obviously. But I think as much so just in the performance, let's go out and play well. Score 2 or 3 goals if we can. But let's just really play well. And say, right, well, if we take that into Forest, we should be able to do the same to them as well. But there's no doubt, and this is what pisses me off about these fucking online accounts, saying, oh, well, if you're not confident, then don't go. What a load of shit. So many people have seen this club balls it up so many times when it's looked like exciting things are going to happen. It's no surprise that people have got that in their heads that we're going to do this again. This is going to happen again. It's no surprise at all. Nobody wants to think like that. I wish we could have won 2 or 3 and said, you know what? Now this team's got the mentality. It would take something amazing for us to lose this now, because we can show we can actually deal with the pressure. That's what people are looking at, saying, actually, can we? The last time we really dealt with pressure was probably the playoffs, to get back in the Premier League, to navigate through Albion over 2 legs and then penalties, and then beat Derby in the final. We've that's the concern, it's either going to be a massive high on Thursday night and a game to remember for the ages, or season's done. We may as well turn the lights off if we don't get through on Thursday. Games against Burnley and Liverpool and Man City, it doesn't even bear thinking about. So yeah, let's just hope we get this right tomorrow, and then we go into Thursday and do the fucking business. Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my